watching Channel 20 TV. Be with Channel 20 and let us make things better together.
Dear viewers, welcoming you for today's show in Channel 20. And today we have got a special guest, Professor Dr. Rusli bin Nordin. He's the head of School of Medicine, Taylor's University, #1 private university in Malaysia and Southeast Asia. And we'll try to understand and learn so many things from him regarding public health. So let's welcome Professor Dr. Rusli bin Nordin. Hello, sir. How are you?
Good. Thank you very much.
Thank you,
for a kind welcome. Right.
Thank you, sir. So as I was saying, that I'm going to ask you a few, general questions regarding the public health, as the audience demand to know sometimes, being a general audience. So we'll try to understand so many things from you. First of all, I would like to ask your observation regarding the pandemic management. How do you see the overall global pandemic management? And if you would like to also say something about Malaysian pandemic management performance, you can feel free.
Thank you, Dr. Asif. Okay. The COVID pandemic management. I think all of you are aware that at the moment there are there are global response, there are local responses. I will start off first of all looking at from the global perspective, right? From a global perspective, we have seen responses seem to be different in the sense that there are countries in the West that have responded quite slow in the sense that when the pandemic hits the world stage, it seems that they are not prepared. On the other hand, there are countries who are well prepared, like China, for instance, is well prepared because it started in China, in Wuhan, in China, and they developed the necessary experience in managing the pandemic. I would say that they have successfully contained the pandemic in a way that by having severe lockdown, very severe SOP, standard operating procedures, and the standard use of distancing, social distancing, wearing face masks, and also hygiene. So I think these are some of the so-called overall general, my first general observation, that there seems to be this polarity of response, right? That somehow in the West it's a bit slow to respond, but it's much stronger in the East, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, this is #1. And then #2, I think second issue is that we find that the severity of pandemic, right? Severity of pandemic. We find that if we look at the numbers, instead of comparing the numbers, it seems that we are very surprised that it was very high in like US, for instance, right? The number of cases of infected cases in the West. I just take an example of US and Brazil, for instance, is another country, right? And of course, in Italy, in France, these are countries that, of course, in our own terms, we expect that this country should be the one that are leading the so-called the fight. But unfortunately, we find that they are not prepared to face this what we call new pandemic. So those are some of the I think the challenges, I think, and also the surprise, a global surprise, because of the our expectation that the West will be leading the fight. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now the third observation, I found that in the third observation, all right, coming close to our what we call this to the east and over to Malaysia and so on, right? We find that the response, because we are very clearly following the event around the world, taking cue from countries that have good role model, for instance, like even countries like China and so on that have successfully contained the pandemic. So for example, in Malaysia, for instance, we put into action very quickly, some of the lessons learned from these countries, and therefore we have adopted the initial stage when it was first hit, like Malaysia, for instance, in May. We put into action the containment, a program, right, to contain the virus, and that include well, almost severe, almost we call it a lockdown, almost a lockdown in Malaysia itself. And in the first place, because of the we're trying to contain it so that there's not much of new cases coming to Malaysia. And then very severe response also, where we have this the MCO program, we call it, managing the movement in Malaysia. And the severe SOP was put down, and even today you can see, that the numbers have come down very drastically. Our what we call this the curve, we call it the epidemiologic curve, has almost like flattened. That allow us to improve our time, to improve our capacity to do testing, to provide adequate intensive care for patients, all right, to try to bring down the number of new cases. So I think these are I think effort, of course, with the SOP, social distancing, wearing face masks in public, and also now we have legislation to mandate that if you violate any of these rules, you have to pay a compound and so on. Yeah. So this so far, I think has somehow it has contained the what do you call this the pandemic. Although we still have people, I think for some reason, the moment we relax the rule a little bit, people tend to be non-compliant sometimes. Yeah. But I guess this is only the small numbers. And at the moment, I think we are trying to avoid seeing a new wave of a pandemic, right? Second wave, third wave of pandemic. We're worried and we are ready to respond anytime, so that we do not have second, third wave of pandemic. So I think that's my first impression about this pandemic management. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, that's really good. And now, you are Professor Dr. Rizla bin Nordin. You have been followed by your students, your colleagues, your followers. You are very much warmly welcome in Malaysia and also in international arena. So people would like to listen from you. If I request you to specifically share your learning on this pandemic and what should be your social message for your followers or who love you most, what will be your message regarding pandemic?
Well, my own message for the pandemic, very simple. I think at the moment the world is bracing for vaccine. I think that's the first thing, because at the end of the day, people are talking about vaccine. But to me, looking at the scenario of this this pandemic and also the what you call this frightening ability of this virus to mutate, virus we can see even now a number of mutation that has occurred. So even if you come out with a vaccine, the vaccine that you produce may not necessarily be able to contain the virus. You may end up have to produce various type of vaccine to accommodate the various mutated version of the virus. So because vaccine, I would say it will take time to be produced. Okay, and again, as I mentioned, the issue about mutation. So I think that is this new normal we need to accept. The first reality I think that we have to accept is that the virus stays with us, and this is the first reality. We cannot now simply say we can go back to our old way. There's this a new normal. There's no such thing as old normal anymore. The new normal is that you now need to brace yourself to survive in the world of COVID. We call it COVID. The COVID is going to stay with us. We need to be able to prepare to observe the SOP, the social distancing or physical distancing, the wearing of masks, and personal hygiene. These are all very important for us. That is considered as the new world for us to say. So I think this is the main thing. So with or without the vaccine, this is the mainstay of our preparedness for this pandemic. Yeah, thank you.
And now we will leave pandemic issues. We will come for general public health issues, men, women, children, healthcare. And now, we are in the year of 2020. Still, do you think that somehow, anyhow, women healthcare system is a little bit behind? Or you think, no, we have grown up a lot and we are trying to balance and prioritize all men healthcare, women healthcare, children healthcare? What's your observation overall in terms of global healthcare system?
Yeah. I would like to what you call this to think that because this is the modern world, a modern world in the sense that we have entered the 21st century, and looking at the work of various organizations in around the world, WHO, you can find UNICEF and so on, UNDP and so on. So we are thinking that in this globalized world, a modern world, with sharing of resources, sharing of knowledge in modern healthcare, preventive medicine and so on, we like to imagine that the issue of so-called special group, we call it vulnerable groups in the community, right? This women's group, the children, the elderly, and so on. We like to think that all this, what you call this category of vulnerable population could have been taken care of by government around the world. This is our own brave our mission and also our hope for the world. But again, I would imagine that if you look at this in countries with so-called constrained resources, countries, especially I think in third world countries and so on, perhaps there's an element of some constraint or difficulty, trying to come to terms with this, responding to this need, global response for this for the health of women, children, and elderly, especially I put it, and how to respond to this population because with the limited resources. So to me, very simple. There is this maybe triangulation in the Western world. Maybe this already been taken care of, and then in the developing countries, people as government are still and by way of primary healthcare motivation, primary healthcare, and now the Sustainable Development Goal (SDG). We are now beginning to address all these the goals of SDG that we can attain within the limitation, as I said again, budget and so on. And then in the third world, again, there could be some diminished response to this. So it's very much, I think, what you call this, to respond to these needs of vulnerable population is all linked to issue about the political situation, the economy of the country, right? The know-how, the availability of facilities, services, hospital, team of what you call primary healthcare workers and so on. These are all important. So to me, if government around the world can sincerely put effort and put more money into healthcare, in terms of the GDP, right? Then I think that will go a long way to address this vulnerable population in the world. This is my thought. Yeah.
Now, another question I would like to ask you, and I expect your frank and simple answer. For example, what's better for Malaysia? Is it good for Malaysia to having a direct relationship with another country where they can share the knowledge and expertise and grow their healthcare system, or you think it's easier and better for Malaysia to directly link with WHO? That means what I'm trying to understand, the impact of WHO for the country like Malaysia.
Well, I think, Tasif, I think this interesting question you asked, right? My response is again as this way, I think we cannot underplay the role of WHO. Certainly, we learn a lot from WHO. I think WHO appears to be it is the center point of collaboration for countries, So undeniably, we need WHO. Although there are countries now maybe do not want anymore to do with WHO, but to me, I mean, still it's very important that we need to be a cohesive. Country nowadays can't survive on its own. There's no such thing as surviving on your own, right? So I think on one hand, we need to have some collaboration with WHO in terms of advisory capacity and so on, but also they also need to have very strong relation with individual countries. To me, I look at it in that context, right? So there's a lot of things that you learn globally. There's a lot of things also you learn from the so-called regional ability, regional so-called best practice. Right? We need to learn, and no country no country in the world can claim that it is the best country now. No, every country has its unique best practice in terms of healthcare. So I think we have to share. I think that at the end of the day, I think it's about sharing what are the best practices. Let's say in Malaysia, say in another country like Pakistan or India or China, anyway, around here, or best practice in the West. So those best practices we'll try now to embed and try to realize it in our country within our own limitation and constraint. I think that should be the way to go. At the same time, we use WHO as one of the, not only WHO, but other agencies that you can see. That could be area where we could collaborate at the global stage. That's
Mm.
my thought lah. Yeah.
Yeah, that means you want WHO as a guardian role to
You
play.
have to be. It has to be a guardian as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I would like to ask you a question regarding medicine, not, I'm talking about COVID-19, I'm saying in general. Regarding COVID-19, some countries, some researchers, they say that the problem came from Wuhan. Some say the problem came from the wild animal. Now, my question is, in pharmaceutical business, while preparing or manufacturing a lot of medicines, they also, we heard, we don't know, I'm not from medicine, that they use a lot of wild animal, ingredients into it. So my general question to you, what you reckon about a medicine industry in today's world? Are we having environment friendly medicine? Or you are thinking still there is a vague, something gloomy in our pharmaceutical industry?
Big question. To ask a very big, a very bold question. No? And I guess there's also I'm worried more about speculation. No? I try to steer away from speculation because all of us actually our what do you call this our knowledge are based on evidence, right? Evidence-based medicine. So I think in the first place, I would like to reiterate, no, that we try to steer away from speculation, but we look at the evidence. To me, very simple, no. I think the in terms of the looking at the global level, right? You cannot what do you call this underplay the importance of pharmaceutical industry because they until now they are the one that they play a very prominent role in terms of provision of medicine and so on. Unless government can take over this, which is not possible, right? Yeah, because of the constraint of cost and so on, and what do you call this and sustainability of supply. But I think to me the most important thing is that whatever the situation is, every country has their own regulatory body, you know. Like for example, even Malaysia, we have our pharmaceutical what do you call this division that looks at the provision and supply of medicine. So we cannot just have anyone supplying medicine into Malaysia, for instance, without bypassing this body, right? So I think you need a gatekeeper in every country, and this gatekeeper must be strong. It must be free from any political what do you call this political persuasion, from any some what do you call this vested interest and so on. It must be very clear that this authority is vested with the authority to look into the interest of the population. So like in Malaysia, as I mentioned to you, that we have very strict what do you call this pharmaceutical industry, what do you call this regulatory body in the Ministry of Health, and they specifically are empowered to look into the issue about medical supply, and so on. So that's why I think this is the important thing, keeping a role of this body in countries that need it to be in place. Otherwise, there's nobody to regulate, nobody to what do you call this to look at the legal aspect of it, and we get into trouble. Yeah.
And your answer is going to take me to my next question, because sometimes we hear there is a global syndication or regional syndication or even local syndication. Again, it's an observation from critics. They say, oh, the group of doctors or medical expert groups, they can expose, they can facilitate certain medicine, they can tag on and make popular certain medicine. So what you say for those critics?
Again, to the Steve, as I said, I mean, it's interesting reading for us to, and also sometimes perhaps even sentiment to look at things and to make some sort of conclusion, right? But I'm a bit worried to make a very generalistic comment on this scenario, because to me, without evidence at hand and without clear evidence, I think it's very dangerous to make those kind of statements. It can even be irresponsible to post that kind of argument or sentiment, because it is not based on real truth, real evidence. So my take on this, that whatever we want to say, it's not about us, no. It's about evidence, no? It's about, is there truth in it, in what was said? Do you have credible evidence to produce and to later on when you confronted by people. No? So if we do not have those evidence, I think it's best that it's more like some just sentiment. No? And I think we need to be careful, no, because then it could be even lead to litigation later on, no. If we just pander to this kind of sentiment, and people may take offense to those kind of sentiment. Yeah. So this is my thought, lah. In the end of the day, we are all doctors, we are scientists, we are professional. So we start to steer away from speculative ideas and try to look at objectively at evidence.
Yep, that's a great statement from you. I hope our audience will also understand to respect this profession, respect this field, because making a passing comment, it's very easy. But being in the front line, it's very, very tough. All right, so I'm going to ask you the next question about mental health. You know, our Western world, we, again, with some facts, with some data, we feel Western world, they are very serious about mental health issue. They try to support all the citizens regarding the better mental health. I would like to ask you, what's the situation in Asia? Maybe you can talk about South Asia or even Malaysia. How are you nurturing mental health?
Yeah, mental health, as Dr. Asif, you're also aware, no? Mental health now is under the current you look at the group of so-called diseases that are confronting the world. So, if I'm not mistaken, the recent one is mental health almost come to number 2, no, in the sport, because of especially issues like depression and so on. It appears to be very, very, very common nowadays. I think so. So I think we're not surprised also, because mental health issue. Okay, when countries begin to modernize, you know, and there are changes in the family structure, in the workplaces, you know, expectation and so on. We will expect mental health to take front seat in the global world. So you look at the studies around the world. It seems to also to support this idea that, no, in the next round of looking at what are the most common so-called diseases in the world. Under Delhi and so on, we will find that mental health going higher and higher because of this issue, because of the new way of managing life, you know. And now we have almost everyone now is techno savvy, and even like today now we are doing online and so on. So the pressure of performance in the country has increased. Performance in terms of, you know, job prospect. Even now during COVID, as you know, no, I think even in country like Malaysia, we are experiencing also a serious mental issue because people are now being retrenched, for instance, right? And they don't have job, they have no money, you know, and because of this, you can see rates of even crime going to go up, you know, divorce in the family and so on. So mental health, I said, even in the normal time is already high, you know. What more in the time like COVID, instance, where there is already an added burden of managing oneself and family and so on and so forth. So therefore, if you ask me, you know, that certainly now because of this issue, there'll be a very strong demand later on for services to manage mental health. Like in Malaysia, for instance, we are fortunate because we have hospital, even dedicated hospital, to treat people with mental health. So this is a major hospital in Malaysia. And in fact, all hospitals have this unit, but there are major dedicated hospitals for mental health in Malaysia. So it's the same thing. I reason that in countries, even in Asia countries, they do have this kind of services, because to anticipate, you must anticipate. You have to train more mental health practitioners, psychiatrists. You just name it, nurses, nursing, mental health nurse, and so on. So and curricula has to be revised, no? To reflect the importance of mental health in the university and so on. And then the fact that we need to recognize that mental health is there to stay, you know, and therefore we need to do something to respond to it. We cannot just put it aside, no, saying that there's no mental health. We cannot do that. No? Nowadays we cannot. Everything has to put in the forefront, and we have we must be responsible enough to say that we have an issue at hand. And the country now must put it appropriately, the priority for mental health in the budget. So the money has to come in, no?
Yep.
Because it will amount to better facilities. Even now, no, people are talking about trying to bring a patient, not to incarcerate them in too long hospital, no? Provide them a more community based management of mental health what call it patient. So this kind of idea need money, and need facility, need practitioners, need support service, even even to the extent that there may even need some palliative care, palliative care for mental health among say elderly communities, people with even not necessarily just depression, but issues like Alzheimer is coming up, Alzheimer and so on and so. So these are things I think the country need to respond what call this accordingly because of this trend. Yeah.
For example, on a fresh day morning, you are receiving a call from WHO, and WHO is asking Professor Dr. Rusli bin Nordin, give us your one suggestion and we are ready to implement. What will be your suggestion?
Wow, that's very bold request for just one suggestion. Then I will ask the WHO, what exactly do you want from me? Yeah, I mean it can be anything, yeah. But I suppose how was I say it? I don't think it's easy to say in one sentence, saying that and then implement it, right? I guess first of all we need to ask ourselves. I think from WHO perspective, right? To me, number one role of WHO is to educate. Number one, if you ask me very bold statement, I think the first thing is that about awareness and education, because all of us are practitioners in public health, right? I think whatever you do in life, people have a choice. Now, I always put this way, people have a choice, but that choice has to be informed, all right? I think that choice in life has to be informed, and to be informed in life, you have to be educated, you have to be aware. I think this is if you ask me about a singular message or what it takes to me, it's about educating and creating awareness, and in fact, a third element I would say empowerment. We empower people, so that people now can make informed choices, informed decision about their life, what to choose, what to do, what treatment they want to take, what preventive measure want to take, what food to eat, even what healthy lifestyle, do they want to keep us healthy, they want to, and so on, because at the end of the day, it's all about you, isn't it? It's about you and your responsibility in life. So I think that is most important, that WHO must must propagate that kind of message that you are responsible for your life. You, not anywhere else. So because of you meaning you and me, everyone else. So therefore, to do that, we must be armed with proper knowledge, correct knowledge, and must be given the support, to be able to make informed decision. This is my take, lah. Yeah.
Sure. Now, Professor Dr. Rusli bin Nordin, what's your dream project? What do you like to do in this lifetime? Do you have any wish or dream project that you'd like to do it for your country people or for the world citizens?
Well, if I just say about Malaysia, I mean, in Malaysia, I think at the moment I would if you ask me what am I going to do here, I think again my own dream is to look two ways. Number one is that looking at the vulnerable community in Malaysia. So I know every country has vulnerable communities. So the question is that at our level, at the community level, what can we do? Sometimes we say what we do is that we always think about what government can do and what so on so do. But interestingly, what at our level can do. This thing about issue about helping people who are destitute, who are in the streets. And I think it is our responsibility as human, as insan. I think that is my message is simple. I think as a human being, as a they call it insan, that we need to ask ourselves, what can I do? Not just what can I do. So sometimes we will be surprised, that what we can do at our level, sometimes it was small, but collectively when you put together, it becomes a powerful force, very powerful. I just give example. For example, like in Malaysia, there are some movement, among NGOs to help destitute people, providing soup kitchen and what do you call this support service, taking people who are on the street, no families, no food, no job, nothing. I can give them some kind of a home, some vocation to do and so on. I think this and also like even to us sometimes even helping them to be back with their family that they have long lost family. So this kind of thing I think are very important in the world. Singularly, I think that as health practitioners, this are what I call to promote health. Promote health is not just simply you talk about vaccine and so on, but at this level, to promote health, that to provide the services for the most vulnerable people in the country. These are, I would say, the very poor, destitute, down and out, the people on the street and so on. We need to do something. We cannot leave them there, because otherwise then there's a lopsided thing, Rich country, but there is this huge gap between the very rich and the very poor. I think that it's a mismatch. I call it myself. Nobody in this world now should be allowed to be what do you call this to live in destitute, to go hungry, and to have no access to medicine and so on. Almost like I'm telling this almost like I'm trying to voice out this sustainable development goal, about what it takes to do, I mean, this is realization. It's easy to talk about SDG, but what it takes to realize it at our own level, yeah. And I think, as I said earlier, small numbers, but collectively, if we group ourselves, collectively, we can do wonders for humanity. That's my message, yeah.
That's a very, very key and intellectually exclusive statement that if we do our part collectively, we can really make and bring the wonder. Exactly, rightly said, Professor Dr. Rusli bin Nordin. We are almost in the end of our show. I'd like to just ask you, how did you feel today's show in Channel 20? How's your experience?
Well, I think it's certainly first of all, I think it's a again, just like I'm saying, I look at it as another I would say an effort at the individual and the collective effort to try to bring this so-called awareness and this education. And I hope I would like to thank Dr. Asif, I think, for this wonderful session, and also I pray that you will continue to provide this service to humanity. I would call it to humanity, because this is a form of sadaqah. I call it this form of sadaqah in Islam. It's called sadaqah, and as you know, sadaqah is very important in Islam. That you do your bit, to provide what I call this contribution to humanity, and it's something that is wonderful for the soul, wonderful for you as a person, and wonderful for the community, wonderful for the world. So I think it's all round. It is a service that you should not look down, because it is always whatever small you do, and certainly this is not small. It's very big, because you are reaching a very big crowd. I mean, around the world. So I think you should continue doing it. And hopefully that by sharing, this I call it sharing with the humanity information. Hopefully that it will improve life. In one way or another, it helps to transform life, improve life, give hope to people. People who are already in despair, give hope. And I think if you can do that, I think the world is a better place to stay and to live. Yeah.
Thank you very much. We're going to end up with your note, but before we say goodbye, we'd like to request you, if you have anything to share, any message to give, especially for the Asian audience, because right now maybe they're worried, they're panicked regarding COVID-19 or regarding their personal life. Regardless, from the Professor Dr. Rusli bin Nordin, what will be your message to Asian audience?
Well, my message, I think, number one, I think, as I said earlier, number one is that we need to be honest with ourselves. Honest in the sense that we have to try to steer away from speculation. We be honest in the sense that we look at evidence, we look at the so-called the knowledge that are given about even now, like the COVID, right? And have a clear mind, open heart, and very importantly, that are ready to help, right? So I think it's very important that we ask ourselves, what can I contribute to our country, to humanity, right? We must ask that, because that's a very important one. Sometimes we forgot that, as I said earlier, the little that we can contribute, the so-called trickle in the ocean, it become a wave later on when people are more and more people coming in to add their trickle of contribution to add to the betterment of the community. So I think this is important, and we should not be worried about something worried about I've done much money and so on. But surprisingly, when you spend the money, you spend whatever you have with the community. Surprisingly, you find that God's response to you is in many ways that you never think that it will happen, that it will come. So again, the blessing, the barakah, they call it, from God will come whenever you selflessly contribute, and in your heart, it's only for the sake of God, because you wanted to help the community and the world. I think that's my message now. Thank you.
Thank you. And with Dr. Rusli's note, we'd like to end up. Let us come forward and contribute ourselves. We never know. Collectively, we can make wonder. And at the end of the day, we are human beings, and we should be for the human beings. That's all for today's show. We're going to meet again on the next show with another guest. Till then, stay tuned, stay safe. Bye-bye.